YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Today we're going through my award picks based on the 2021 through 2022 season. We're also going to reveal your guys' picks because you've been voting on our Twitter. A lot of those polls keeping you guys involved going on our Twitter. Live NFL updates, talking during live games. We got some big-time playoff games coming up this week. We got content covering all those, covering the entire playoffs. We got you. Join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Follow our Twitter, link down below. Link down below for all those recent videos, too, pinned in the comments. So check it out. Be much appreciated. Excited about these awards. Again, here's our Twitter. A lot of updates on, Ballard making some interesting comments on Carson Wentz. I broke that down. Some draft content, everything. We got everything on Twitter, so check it out. So we'll start with the MVP, which is a tough one. I end up going with Aaron Rodgers here, and it's a tough debate between Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. And there's some other players that deserve to be mentioned as well. But it's between Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, and I went back and forth on it because they're both deserving. It's amazing what Tom Brady did at his age. Really what it came down to, what kind of split the difference for me, decided the difference, was Aaron Rodgers taking care of the ball a little bit better there, obviously, which, there's to nitpick. There was some games where Tom Brady were in the Saints game, but not as accurate or careful with the ball. Maybe that could have resulted in the game going the other way. So I think the Packers being the most careful team with the ball, and I think that, being Aaron Rodgers and the clutch throws he's made. I mean, there's been plenty of clutch throws that Tom Brady's made, but to me, that's the most valuable player. If you say Tom Brady, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of categories where I would argue with it if it's not in a certain pick. But this one, if you say Tom Brady, I'd say you're right. If you say Aaron Rodgers, I'd say you're right. So I went with Aaron Rodgers. He's the fan picks in the top right. You guys voted for Aaron Rodgers through our Twitter. We hold these polls for everything you can think of pretty much every year. So you guys agree with Aaron Rodgers. Third, I went with Joe Burrow. I really like the way Joe Burrow picked it up down the stretch of the season. I mean, you can argue Joe Burrow because he was under a lot of pressure. Rodgers and Brady, pretty good offensive lines, better than pretty good. So they had a lot of time to throw. Burrow, breaking tackles that could have been sacks, avoiding the pressure, making throws under heavy pressure, dominating against the blitz. So I did turn the ball over a little bit earlier in the year, maybe middle of the year. But a fantastic season and a bright future for Joe Burrow there. Obviously looks pretty good coming off that injury too, so that's fantastic. So it's a quarterback award. Some receivers, maybe a running back we wanted to throw in that conversation, but whether you like it or not, it's a quarterback award there. So I went with Aaron Rodgers. It's tough between Rodgers and Brady. At the end of the season every year, we're at the end of the regular season, I always do my top 100 list every year. Always look forward to that. I know a lot of you do. That I actually factor in the playoffs too. I just like to do that because you play for the playoffs, like the whole season. That's part of the season. So I like doing my top 100 based off everything combined, regular season and playoffs, Super Bowl. So I can't wait to do that and see how things change maybe a little bit. So it'll be a big Rodgers versus Brady show here in the playoffs. We'll see what happens. To my offense player of the year, it might surprise people. I don't think it should. I'm going DEEBO Samuel. I think is the best offensive player in football, the best non-quarterback in football. And these other guys deserve some love as well. They're well deserving. The fans went with Cooper KUPP. I mean, historic season in terms of his the receiving yards there. Racked up some receiving touchdowns as well. It did feel like he was the guy of the Rams offense. A lot of staring at Cooper KUPP for Stafford and teams maybe figuring that out. Him just dominating the slot, and it was kind of just smart of them. Let's put this guy that can get open quick, put him in the slot. I went with DEEBO, though. I think DEEBO's more in the conversation of most valuable player, too, because he is the San Francisco 49ers offense. I mean, you get him the ball in any way. You run him the ball, you throw him the ball, you give him an end around. They do those straight back pitches. They do the outside, the pitches on the outside. Get him the ball downfield. The run after catch is ridiculous. You take DEEBO Samuel away from this offense and what he did this year, the 49ers got big time problems. So it was awesome to see the guy stay healthy because he is extremely, extremely talented. I mean, how many situations where the 49ers got third down, maybe it's a fourth down situation, but a lot third down or second and extremely long, or maybe they got a penalty on first down. It backed them up. They got a holding, so it's a replay first down and 20, whatever it may be. I just watched an insane amount of football this year, every year, and I've seen so many of those situations, and they just get the ball to DEEBO, and he just turns it into something. He turns nothing into something. He gets the first down, incredible. He gets a touchdown. Or the Bears game, they gave him a bad screen pass. on I can't remember the down, but it was long distance, and he took it all the way to the house. Just so many runs where teams are game planning for him. They know he's going to go in motion. They know he's going to get the ball, and he's just able to get the big gain, find the end zone, break that tackle to get the first down on third down instead of being a yard or two short. So I thought DEEBO Samuel was outstanding. The other guys were outstanding as well. DEEBO Samuel, what he did this year, I thought was insane. And 49ers are in the playoffs right now because of DEEBO Samuel. I mean, there's other parts of their team that's really stepped up. But I thought he was under the category of most valuable player, and then him being involved as a receiver and a running back in the backfield at times, that helped me pick him as Offensive Player of the Year. Cooper Kupp, historic season. I know a lot of people will say he broke all these records, and he did. He was incredible. I don't base everything off the stats, though, but he was incredible. And Jonathan Taylor, it's hard putting him that number 3 next to him because he feels like another number 1 guy. I mean, he kind of carried that Colts team with his running ability. I do think that scheme and that the run blocking really helps. There's other backs, and Jonathan Taylor was the best back in football this year, hands down. I do think there's other backs that if they're in that scheme, they can do the same thing or maybe more. But he was fantastic. Taking care of the ball is where he's impressive because he had the fumbling issue in Wisconsin, so that's where he's very impressive. Best running back in this year. I had to give the receivers some love because it's kind of a receiver type era, passing game era, so it makes sense. But DEEBO gives you everything there, so I was a big fan of DEEBO Samuel. In terms of, I've seen other people picking this award, and you rightfully could go Cooper Kupp or Jonathan Taylor, but I don't really see anybody going DEEBO and almost not even considering him in a way, doing him dirty there. So big DEEBO guy based off this year, as you could tell. Defensive Player of the Year, you got to go with TJ Watt. Fans pick TJ Watt. Actually pretty close for me, though. I'm not a guy to base it all on the stats, but when you get 22.5 sacks, it means something. It definitely means something to me. And another thing, too, I've been preaching this for some time now, that at some point sacks went from being overrated or used too much, where back in the day, maybe 5 years ago even, that's not too far back in the day, people would say, oh, this guy's the best because he has this many sacks, and it was kind of an overrated stat. It was all based on the sacks. And at some point here, and I've been saying this a lot last 2 years, at some point, we have this ability to read or evaluate pressures and get production or get values in pressure. And I think people are just not focusing on the sack totals at all and kind of looking at the pressure. And pressure is a great thing to go off of. How productive are the pass rushers beating the offensive lineman in front of them? It's great. Maybe it shows good players. If you consistently get pressure, they're a good player. But at some point, people are forgetting the difference of getting pressure on quarterback and actually hitting the quarterback, getting him down. I mean, when you go against, in the big games, when you go against the quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Herbert, Burrow, Dak Prescott, I can go all day. Those types of quarterbacks, the difference between on a third down, a huge play, we'll use an example, on getting pressure on them and actually sacking them, major difference. Because most of the time, those big-time quarterbacks, and I just listed a lot of them, Lamar Jackson, throw Lamar Jackson in there, big-time quarterbacks will beat pressure. Lamar running past him and getting a first down. Aaron Rodgers on the run, throwing a dime. So not getting the sack in those situations results in a big-time play for some teams. So I think at some point people forgot that the sacks are pretty damn important. We can't base everything on sacks. So I went with TJ Watt, an absolute monster out there. There's a lot of debate going on with him on, he missed, and that's actually what made it close because I'm a availability guy. Because he missed quite a few games, not quite a few, but he missed some games here, and he still got those sack numbers. And people are kind of blowing that up. And I do think it's impressive, to be able to get those sack numbers, miss those games. But a reason why it ended up being close is because he did miss a few games, and not being out there for your team does kind of play a little bit of a part for me. So I would like him to stay healthier. Obviously, perfect will. I know he would like that as well. But just a monster season from him. It was close for me because I do like Micah Parsons, a rookie, very close to me because it sounds funny, but I kind of have a thing for those versatile players that also get the production, like Micah Parsons here. And it's not because they're versatile and they can get the production. Those are kind of bonuses, actually. But those types of players will actually they actually are the defense. They create for the rest of the defense. You know, him lining up at edge, linebacker. Is he going to stunt, come inside, rush from there? Is he going to blitz? Is he going to drop back in coverage? He can get pressure from anywhere. That's the pre-snap problem for offenses. It's the game plan problem, and that forces them to kind of figure out what he's trying to do, and you really just got to guess. Shows how good he is and how valuable a player that is, but it also kind of puts the focus on him, opens things up for the rest of his teammates, makes Randy Gregory, DeMarcus Lawrence, these guys, helps these guys out a bit. So, yeah, my pick 2 years ago for Defensive Player of the Year was Zadarius Smith, actually, and that's the type of player he was in his monster season. So I really like those types of players. So I strongly consider Micah Parsons here. And Aaron Donald, you know, eating up double team, triple team, still being very, very productive. So definitely consider him. And then I thought a funny thing was, you know, there's a lot of people split on another Cowboy, Trevon Diggs, you know, kind of being in this discussion. So a lot of people see that he, you know, he's this big of a playmaker, gets these interceptions. A lot of people are like, well, he gets beat a lot, you know. And I'm kind of in the middle of that. You know, I think it's not all about, you know, he's been an incredible playmaker helping his team out, but it's not all about the stats. And then the people saying he gets beat all this time, we have to understand coverage. You have to understand he's in man coverage a lot more than some of the other corners. So typically a man coverage corner is going to get beat more. Like, I think I can go out there and get open at you know, at times in man coverage. It's just how it is, you know. So I'm kind of in the middle of those people kind of arguing there. So Trevon Diggs had a fantastic season is what I think. But yeah, those are my Defensive Player of the Year. You guys went with TJ Watt. Obviously, Offensive Rookie of the Year should be pretty straightforward. We both got Jamar Chase. Historic season for him. You see why I had elite grade on him. Had elite grade on Mike Parsons as well. It's just you don't see receivers like this. He's just a do-it-all guy. You can't figure out what he's best, where his best part of his game is. Is it, you know, contested catches? Is it routes? Is it run after the catch? You know, it's ridiculous, and how he fools defenders kind of with his body language, and you know, how he fights them off without interfering. It's pretty special. So it's a special receiver, could very well be the best NFL receiver in the very near future. I really think so. I said that before he even got drafted that he will be. Jaylen Waddle, I went with number 2, another receiver. Fantastic year for them. Record-breaking performances there. Then Mac Jones. Love Mac Jones' performance. I really like that there's been his good games. There were some bad ones in there. He's a rookie. But I really like that he kind of looked like a vet a lot of times. Just so smart, reading pressure, beating pressure. So just very accurate for a rookie quarterback too. He got his team into the playoffs. So really enjoyed watching Mac Jones this year. And we kind of thought maybe he's the most pro-ready quarterback, and you see why, because he's a smart quarterback. Defensive rookie, got to go Micah Parsons. He was my number 2 pick for Defensive Player of the Year. So it's pretty obvious, and the fans went with Micah Parsons as well. Patrick Surtain would be second for me. Yeah, I talked about it all year. We kind of viewed him as a lockdown corner coming in. I still think he presents that, but he kind of has that playmaking ability. We saw flashes of this year, so really impressed by that. And number 3, I went with JEVON Holland. I think it was a big piece of that Dolphins defense, and for it kind of taking off in the second half of the year being fantastic, because they kind of need that versatile player that can do a bit of everything in that defense. Well, maybe the defense will be different now because Flores is gone, but different topic. But yeah, I mean, we've seen him play free safety, being rangy in the back end, being that playmaker. We've seen him around the box, getting pressure on the quarterback, being rangy in terms of the tackling, attacking the ball when it's already on the ground, the tackling department. So I was blown away by JEVON Holland's performance as well. So those are my top 3 defensive rookies. Coach of the Year, we're in agreement with that too. Went Mike VRABEL. The Titans, their star player, the guy that we view as carrying the team, Derrick Henry, goes down. And there's a lot of guys going down. I saw something they had to use 90-something different players this year, which is absurd, and they still lock up the number 1 seed, the best team in the AFC. VRABEL's involved in the defense as well, defensive-minded guy, and that defense elevating to where it went to as well. I thought it maybe finished the year the last few weeks as maybe more than a few weeks as maybe the better defensive football down that late stretch, but to which to where it got to. So I was definitely thrilled with Mike VRABEL. Zach Taylor getting the Bengals. It's just, we know the Bengals had talent, but to get the Cincinnati Bengals in the playoffs and winning that tough division is something else there. So I went Zach Taylor too. I like his ability to game plan as well. I saw that end of last year. People talking about him getting fired. I was like, no way. Dealing with no Joe Burrow out there, and I thought they were game planning correctly. I like the play calls for them. And Matt LaFleur, having the Packers the best regular season team in football, again, that very impressive, obviously, there. Rodgers responsible for a lot of that, but still very well coached team there. So those are the coaches. Round of the comeback, very tough between Dak Prescott and Joe Burrow. The fans went with Joe Burrow. I went with Dak Prescott, and I'm no expert in the medical field and how gruesome those injuries were. But it does seem like what Joe Burrow did was ridiculous. Tear your ACL. People kind of wondered, is it going to be in his head? Being under pressure, and he's fantastic under pressure, kind of in the MVP conversation. I do think people are kind of coming back these days. They're doing a better job operating on the ACLs, but it's still insane that what he did. Dak Prescott, just remember seeing live, just seeing him, his ankle, his foot going the wrong way, just dangling there. You really worry about long-term effects for Dak Prescott, because that is the first thing that's hitting the ground when you're moving, obviously, is your foot, your ankle. And then what he was able to do, turn around, no hesitation in his game, no worry in his game, no fear. I went with Dak Prescott for those reasons. So it's just remember seeing that injury. It's just like I was just so worried about his long-term future there. So I went Dak Prescott. Nick Bosa coming back from that injury, playing like a top-tier defensive player as well. Very, very impressive. Fans went with Joe Burrow there. Makes sense to me. Offense, we did awards offense of the year. I went with the Dallas Cowboys, and that was, you guys went with the Green Bay Packers. I went with the Cowboys because, they were number one in production. That's really not it. I like the balance between the pass and the run. There's teams that were super high up in the pass and then not so much in the run. There were some teams, like some of these other teams, super high up in the pass and then pretty solid in the run, and then kind of vice versa. A lot of the running teams aren't that great in the passing department, but out of the Cowboys were top tier in both, very effective in both, and actually getting points up on the board as well. So I went the Cowboys, and the question will be, will they be the same in the playoffs? Because have they beat the best teams? Have they played the best teams? So that's kind of what we're waiting to see in the playoffs there. With the Buccaneers next, high-powered passing act, like the way they use Fournette, kind of open up the run game with a running back, because they got him in the passing game as well. And the Packers 3, you guys went with the Packers there. Defense was pretty tough. I went with the Bills. It was very tough between these three. You guys went with the Patriots. I'd say the Titans, I think, finished the year as the best defense in my mind. The last, we'll say six games maybe, ballpark, out of the Titans had the best defense. And there was a stretch kind of in the middle where I thought the Patriots had the best and elite defense. But I look it over, and the Bills were so consistent at the top with these teams, but the whole way, while some of these teams had portions of the season where they struggled. So consistency ended up splitting the hairs here. And I went the Buffalo Bills. I like that they're balanced too. It's like, what are they best at? They cover well in the secondary. Their safeties are very good, getting their hands on the ball. Their linebackers are very sound, technically sound, making plays. Rangy defensive line. It's like no one's getting a lot more pressure than the other guy. No one's stopping a run better than the other. It's all balanced across the board. So I could appreciate that. Fans want the Patriots. Yeah, I think specifically the best defense that I saw take the field was probably the Patriots when they were kind of going on that run, maybe a 3, 4, 5 game stretch, specifically. But did that take up a lot of the season? They were good most of the season, but yeah, so I can understand why you argue them, because they had some ridiculous performances this year, for sure. The Dolphins were under consideration, very good. The Saints were fantastic. The Cowboys turned the ball over the most, or their defense took the ball away most, I should say. So pretty impressive. And then we did a team of the year, which is the best regular season team. Went with the Packers. I thought definitely consider the Titans as well, because what they overcame. You can kind of get that team feel. But the Packers were also missing some key guys as well that they're now going to be getting back. And put the Buccaneers at 3. I thought those are the best 3 teams this year. You saw my power rankings. Those were the top 3 teams, 1, 2, 3. So that kind of made sense there. And the fans went with the Packers. So, yeah, we have these polls for you guys on our Twitter. We always got polls like this. You guys are picking games with the polls on there as well. You guys are also picking games in this. We got like a league that we're in. You can join it. There's a link down, pinned in the comments. All those different things. Recent videos as well. So really enjoy these types of videos. We got recent videos include off-season videos and a lot of playoff content. So go check it out. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on while you're there. It'd be much, much appreciated. But that is going to wrap up the awards video. Again, we're going to do player rankings. We'll do top 100. We'll do top 100 be after the playoff Super Bowl. I like to factor that in because that's important to me, obviously. It should play a part. But that's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.